Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in today's video we'll be taking a look at Shamans on the alpha. Since it's so early in the alpha, there's a good chance a lot of these things will change, but Shamans are seeing a pretty huge change, especially for Elemental and Enhancement. The Maelstrom building spending system is going to be completely gone, and from the looks of it, Restoration is mostly the same, with a couple small updates here and there. But Shamans are going to be going through quite a bit on the alpha, and a lot of people are paying attention to see where Blizzard is going to take them, as it's going to be almost like a reverse transition from the new enhancement. Kind of like essentially Shaman is evolving just backwards into what it used to be from previous expansions. So today I want to take a look at it. What is the progress right now on the alpha as the next class to cover for the Shadowlands update? We're going to start off with, well, normally I would go from top to bottom, but let's go with the one spec I understand the best on live, so I can explain the changes here into Elemental, into Resto, as the spec I don't really play all that often, but I'll try to explain everything new as best as I can. First of all, every class has a lot more abilities that are specific to their class. So Shamans have a flurry of abilities that are just baseline. As you can see, this class probably has the most amount of buttons on the bars, and I could even add more, so I would need to make even more keybinds. But it looks like Shaman is going to be a very, very busy class with a lot of group utility. Let's take a look at what Shaman abilities are. We'll start off with your basic res, Ancestral Spirit, into Astral Recall, which gives you an extra Hearthstone. Astral Shift is still your wall as a defensive, 1.5 minute cooldown. Of course, every Shaman has Bloodlust, so that's going to be still group utility. Capacity Totem is going to be your stun. 1 minute cooldown, stuns for 3 seconds. After 2 seconds of kind of like baking or cooking or detonation, you have Chain Heal as a base Shaman ability. Every Shaman has this, so every Shaman can now cast an AoE heal on their allies, which is going to be very interesting. It heals friendly allies with a little bit, jumps to 2 most injured nearby allies, healing reduced by 30% each jump. Has a bit of a mana cost, but it's interesting that even Enhancement has this. Chain Lightning returns the base ability for Enhancement as well. You will not be casting this ability, but Enhance doesn't really need to cast. There's another mechanic for Enhance that returns to make certain spells instant cast in some cases. But Chain Lightning is there, does a bit of damage over 3 enemies. Earth Elemental is available for all specs, so everybody can summon Earth Ellie for 5 minute cooldown for a minute. Earthbind Totem is still in the game for that slow on enemies. You have Farsight, which is still great for exploring open worlds. I mean, I was able to look at the whole Kirin area and just explore way out into the mountains, see what that whole structure is, and even explore the main hub. For normally you have to do all the quests in order to access the main hub, but with this ability you can just explore it ahead in case you want to try Shaman for that. And I think it's going to be quite fun to play as this class for all the exploration at the very beginning of this expansion. Flame Shark returns, and it seems to be there for Shamans. For Enhance, it does seem to be part of your basic playstyle, but maybe with certain builds you might even stop including this ability, but we'll just have to wait and see. Flame Tongue Weapon returns as a weapon enchant, as in you have to find your character icon and click Flame Tongue Weapon and enchant your weapon with it, which will make your weapon do a little bit extra additional fire damage and has synergies for Enhancement for having a fire enchant in your offhand. Next one, we have Frost Shock available for all specs. I think the only spec that didn't have some form of Frost Shock was Enhance, had the Frostbrand weapon, but it still had a slow. And Restoration. So now Resto has a Frost Shock, so you can kite enemies in PvP. Ghost Wolf is available for all 3 specs. Healing Stream Totem returns and does quite a bit of healing to yourself, and it's actually a good hot when it comes to questing. I'm actually using this quite often in order to give me some sort of healing over time, so I don't have to spend my own resources to heal myself. And I think in group content this could be quite good. Healing Surge is going to be your single target heal that will just heal you. Hex is still in the game on a 30-second cooldown. Lightning Bolt is in the game too. You can cast it and it costs no mana. It doesn't really do a lot of damage, but it costs no mana, so that's interesting. Lightning Shield is based for all specs in the game. Ellie, Enhance, or Resto. Purge is still in the game to remove enemies' beneficial effects. Searing Totem is in the game too, although it doesn't work in these trained dummies at all. But the fact that you have it, I mean, it's awesome. And it does fire at enemies. There's some class synergies with this, but not enough. It seems that they just brought back Searing Totem from the good old days on a 15-second duration, 30-second cooldown, so you'll have it up every 15 seconds essentially, or every 30 seconds. So you have 15 seconds of a totem, 15 seconds of no totem. Maybe Blizzard will make more synergies with Searing Totem in the future. Charmer Totem is in the game still to remove all charms, super fear. Cannot be used while you're feared, charmed, or slept. So it's not like the original Tremor. Water Walking is in the game to give you Water Walking. Wind Shear for Interrupt at a 12-second cooldown, which seems a little shorter than most melee, or at least around there. We have Reincarnation still in the game, so you can reincarnate yourself. And that's all the utilities that all Shaman specs have. So it's quite a pretty big pull. When it comes to enhancement specific abilities, we'll have Cleanse Spirit to remove all curses, which I think should be part of this utility, but it does change whether you're Ellie or Resto. Resto, I think, is the only one that has the better version of this. Crash Lightning still comes back from BFA to crash lightning on enemies, do nature damage, empower your Lava Lash and Storm Strike to do frontal cleaves, and Crash Lightning increases damage of a Storm Strike. Feral Spirit's still in the game. Normally it is a 2-minute cooldown, so we'll swap to a talent just so you can see it. Normally a 2-minute cooldown as usual. Lava Lash now does more damage if your offhand has a Flame Tongue weapon, so make sure to enchant your offhand with Flame Tongue. Otherwise it hits for very, very little. Rock Body is in the game, and it has no, as you can see, no Maelstrom cost for any of these abilities, but a cooldown. That's really essentially it. Assault the target with Earth and Power, dealing a bit of nature damage. Then we have Spirit Walk to give you, take off all the slows and movement parent effects and give you movement speed for 60% for 8 seconds. Storm Strike is in the game to do quite a bit of physical damage for both of your weapons. We have Wind Fury Totem, which is baseline for this spec of Shaman. Only Enhanced gets this. Summon a Wind Fury Totem with 5 health at the feet of the caster for 2 minutes. Party members within 12 yards have a 10% chance when they auto attack to swing an extra time. This is huge for Enhancement. This utility with other melee in the group, even if Shaman doesn't do a lot, this for other melee to do more damage is insane. So Wind Fury Totem for Enhance, only Enhance gets this, Elemental does not. You also have Wind Fury Weapon, which will imbue your main hand weapon with Wind Fury. Imbue a weapon with the element of wind. Each hit has a 26% chance to trigger 2 extra attacks, dealing 57 physical damage each. So you'll put this in your main hand weapon. So you have your Wind Fury in main hand, Flame Tongue in the offhand. Then we have Maelstrom Weapon, which is going to be replacing the whole Maelstrom mechanic. Maelstrom Weapon, when you deal damage with a melee weapon, you have a chance to gain Maelstrom Weapons. Each stack of Maelstrom Weapon reduces the cast time of your next damage or healing spell by 20%. Mastery is Enhanced Elements, increases the chance to trigger Stormbringer and Wind Fury by 1.36% and increases all fire, frost, and nature damage dealt by 34, or based on your mastery, honestly. Stormbringer, your special attacks have a 6.4% chance to reset the remaining cooldown of Storm Strike and trigger no cooldown. So essentially this is enhanced. You no longer have a Maelstrom system. Instead, you're all about cooldowns, but we can talk about that in a little. But having Wind Fury as an ability, as a totem to maintain for 2 minutes to allies is quite huge for enhancement. It's going to be a huge utility when it comes to group content. Besides that, we also have a bunch of new talents. We have, first of all, in level 15 row, Boulder Fist is in the game. Rock Bottom recharge time is reduced by 15%, deals 35% increased damage. Forceful Winds on the same row. Wind Fury causes each successive Wind Fury attack within 15 seconds to increase the damage of the next Wind Fury, stacking up to 5 times. Or Elemental Blast, a cast ability with no mana cost, does a bit of elemental damage, empowers your next crit, strike, haste, or mastery by a bit for 10 seconds, 12-second cooldown. With Enhancement Shaman being able to stack up Maelstrom Weapon, you're actually able to cast this as an instant cast, or you can just start the encounter with Elemental Blast in the opener. Level 25 though, we have Landslide. Rockbiter has a 40% chance to make a next Storm Strike increase damage by 100%. Hot Hand, melee auto attacks with Flame Tongue weapon have a 5% chance to reduce the cooldown of Lava Lash by 75, increasing damage of Lava Lash by 8 seconds. So essentially, you'll be pressing Lava Lash every other global and will do far more damage. Or Totem Mastery, summons all your totems that increase your combat capabilities for 2 minutes. You have Haste Totem, you have Storm Strike Increase Totem, Lava Lash Damage Increase Totem, and increases chance to trigger Wind Fury by 2% with Tailwind Totem. Level 30 we have Spirit Wolf, and this row is mostly the same. While transformed to Ghost Wolf, you gain 5% increase in movement speed and 5% damage reduction every second, stacking up to 4 times. Earth Shield, which will give you the same Earth Shield. Upon taking damage, you will trigger a stack and increases all healing on the target that you place by 10%. Earth Shield can only be placed on one target at a time, and only one Elemental Shield can be active on the Shaman, so you cannot have a Lightning Shield and an Earth Shield together. We have Static Charge, which is the cooldown of Capacitor Stone by 5 seconds for each enemy it stuns, up to a maximum reduction of 20 seconds. This ability is normally a minute cooldown. We have 35 Hailstorm Storm Strike resets the cooldown of your shock spells, so Flame Shock and Frost Shock, you'll be able to, let's say, Flame Shock one target, Storm Strike, Flame Shock another target. Or you can go for Searing Assault, 1 minute cooldown. Strike your target with your offhand weapon for a bit of fire damage. For the next 10 seconds, your Searing Totem attacks 100% faster, and your Flame Shock period is reduced by 6-7, so essentially more ticks, faster ticks with your Flame Shocks. And then we have Overcharge, 1.5 minute cooldown, instant, and 2 new weapons with elements generate 5 Maelstrom immediately, and 1 stack of Maelstrom on weapon every 1 second for 10 seconds. So you'll be able to get a lot of instacast going with this Overcharge ability. In level 40, we have a defensive or utility tree with Nature's Guardian, giving you a health increase when you drop below a certain amount of health. Cannot occur more than 145 seconds, so that's same as life. Feral Lunge, same as life, for that big old charge, and Wind Rush Totem for extra movement speed for allies. Level 45, we have mostly the same stuff with Crashing Storm, leaving an electrical field after using Chain Lightning on an enemy. So instead of Crash Lightning, it is now a Chain Lightning ability. Or you can go for Sundering for a bit of Flame Strike damage every 40 seconds. Or Stormkeeper, which is the same as Elemental Shaman ability. 1 minute cooldown, 1.3 second cast. Charges up with lightning, causing next to lightning bolts or chain lightning to deal 150% more damage and be instant cast. Level 50, we have Elemental Spirits, which is the same as live, reduce the cooldown of Feral Spirits by 30 seconds, and imbue them with the elements of fire, frost, or lightning, enhancing your abilities. Or Earthen Spike, which has no Maelstrom cost, 20-second cooldown, spike the enemy for a bit of physical damage, increasing physical and nature damage dealt to the target by 20% for 10 seconds. Or Ascendance, 3-minute cooldown, basically turning you into Ascended God, allowing your Storm Strikes to turn into Wind Strikes so you can have a much shorter cooldown, and you bypass armor with your abilities and have 30-yard range with all attacks. So essentially, Enhancement has some talents that are from BFA, some talents that came from other expansions before, and some new ones that I've never seen before, like Overcharge, or I don't know if Searing Assault ever was a thing, but it seems to be a mishmash of Battle for Azeroth and old school Shamans in a display style that's all about the old school cooldown reliant Shaman. But how does it play in the real aspects of Shadowlands? What is the combat like? Alright, let's take a look at the playstyle of Enhancement. So Enhancement is going to be a spec that's all about cooldowns now, since nothing costs Maelstrom. You're just trying to maintain cooldowns on every possible ability. Storm Strike has a cooldown and does quite a bit of damage. Your Lava Lash does quite a bit of damage with the cooldown. So I think it's going to be going back to what Enhancement used to be. Try to use all the abilities that do the most amount of damage, put them on cooldown as soon as humanly possible. So in the opener, I would do something like maybe... Do you even Flame Shock? I guess you should Flame Shock because that does quite a bit of damage, right? But Enhanced, this is more or less how I play it. I went for a very passive talent because the first thing I noticed with Enhancement, there's a lot of cool talents. Elemental Blast sounds like a cool idea together with Overcharge and Stormkeeper and Earthen Spike. But where do I put all these buttons? And it feels like there's certain playstyles that... There's certain talents in this talent row that came from BFA. And they're good for the BFA Shaman. But BFA Shaman and like Cataclysm, Mr. Pandaria style Shaman, maybe even WoD, because I don't remember Shaman and WoD that much. Actually, did anybody even play Shaman in WoD? I think it was in a really bad spot in WoD. But the Shaman of Legion BFA with Legion BFA talents, those talents don't, I think, work all that well for a Cataclysm Shaman or a Mr. Pandaria Shaman. And it seems to be that Blizzard has taken Enhancement into that Cataclysm Mr. Pandaria direction. Which isn't a bad thing, it's just like, that's just where it's at. And I feel like some of these mechanics clash, and it just seems to be too many. You can really just complicate rotation, so you have so many different mechanics to look out for, and they just collide against one another for a playstyle that doesn't really feel that good. We are on level 51 characters with not the best stats in the world, however, so maybe with a load of haste, this could feel really, really good. But we can still talk about how it currently feels to play as well. So I went for a more passive playstyle because there's so many toolkits already for Shaman. The more passive my playstyle, the better. Forceful Winds feels good, Totem Master feels good, and so basically I dropped my totems down and just go for a simple rotation. I picked up Searing Assault, Sundering is always fun, Elemental Spirits from passive, and it feels quite good. So Enhancement, how is it going to be played? So you're going to be auto-attacking your enemy, obviously, and you're going to start using all abilities. Let's just go talking about base playstyle of Shaman before we really complicate this. You can be auto-attacking the enemy. Sometimes you'll get Forceful Winds with inferior procs, and Maelstrom weapon is going to be stacking up. You'll go for Storm Strikes. You'll go for Lava Lash. You'll go for Rockbiter. And I guess you can go for Flame Shock. We don't know how good Flame Shock is going to be. You'll also want to use your Searing Totem. But Searing Totems don't attack train dummies right now on BFA Alpha, so this is pretty, or Shadowlands Alpha, so that's a little disappointing. And when you get Maelstrom procs up, you'll pop Lightning Bolt into the enemy. In an AoE situation, you will try to, I guess, spread Flame Shock on multiple targets, and you would use Chain Lightning instead. You'll still have Crash Lightning, which does a little bit of damage, but doesn't power your next Storm Strike. So this ability could still actually be good and could be part of your basic rotation. And then you can start throwing in different talents like Sundering, Searing Assault, Totem Mastery, and whatever you want to run in order to complicate a rotation even more. Which can be sometimes better to add more unique abilities, or you muddy your rotation instead of actually making it that much better. But essentially this is a spec. You just put things on cooldown ASAP. And I find myself just trying to put things in cooldown and looking for procs, and it's kind of a fun playstyle, I'm not gonna lie. It's fun because you don't have any more this playstyle of, oh, I gotta build resources before I get to use my biggest abilities. No, you can just gotta walk up to an enemy and hit him with a Storm Strike immediately in the face. And that feels pretty fun. That feels pretty good to play. So from there, you start making your rotations a little bit more enhanced, as Enhancement Shaman would be. Normally in the opener, I would go for someone like Totem Mastery to drop my totems. I would also drop my Wind Fury totem as well to make sure that I have all my totems up and running to give my allies help and myself as many stats as I possibly can. I actually like Totem Master right now because it gives you extra haste. And haste is kind of like what I really am craving right now. You pop your Ghost Rolls. I usually go for a Flame Shock, and I try to go for my rotation. We'll get Searing Assault so we can get more ticks with our dots. And we'll just start using abilities in order to try to see if we can trigger the cooldown of Storm Strike, which I think you might actually be putting Crash Lightning on cooldown a lot more often than usual in order to see if you might be able to get Storm Strikes back up and running. Because I believe Crash Lightning actually is counts as a main hand attack, so it has a high chance to proc your Storm Strikes back up. So that might be part of your rotation. We don't really know yet. What abilities are you even going to press as part of your rotation? Hard to tell right now with Enhance. We'll just have to wait and see. I kind of want to put my Rock Bottom cooldown, so there's 2 charges, getting a lot of Storm Strike procs, so that is one thing that's going to stay with the spec from BFA. So that's going to be a lot of fun when this goes on. With high haste build, that could be a lot of fun to do. And essentially, yeah, that's the spec. You're just looking for procs, you're looking for cooldowns for abilities. Trying to keep my Sundering cooldown ASAP. Make sure I'm Lightning Bolting. Flame Shock is up, so we're okay. Gonna Crash Lightning. We got a proc for our Storm Strike. Searing Assault to put Flame Shock to be a stronger dot. Normally we'll be maintaining Searing Totem. And I guess I'll just start pressing it, just so you can see the playstyle, but it does nothing. Doesn't do anything to train dummy right now, so it doesn't really feel all that good to press, to be honest. And damage-wise, it feels kind of lacking. Maybe Blizzard will find a way to talent so you can be like a really strong sentry that does quite a bit of damage. And as Enhance, it's a simple playstyle, but some people are concerned right now about its viability. The damage is a little iffy, but this is alpha. Damage isn't going to be important. Blizzard is going to balance it later. But Enhancement might be brought just for Wind Fury Totem. But with its complexity of all these different talents, so many different buttons, it might... The different mechanics that you have in talents are all so separate and so different, they might actually play against one another and create a playstyle for Enhancement that will feel very similar to Legion Survival Hunter. We had so many different things to juggle, and even if you juggled all these things, if your damage isn't good, then nobody's going to essentially play the spec. They might play it to bring a Wind Fury Totem into groups, which is awesome. The fact that it has this utility, which might give it that edge, even though it doesn't do that much damage or it has a very complicated playstyle, those players that play it will bring Wind Fury to give their allies extra help. I like everything that it has in the base toolkit. However, with talents, I feel like maybe there could be more passives because the playstyle for Enhancement is already very busy. So maybe there could be more talents or abilities that change certain other abilities, or maybe bring back certain mechanics that we used to have from back in the day, like the Flame Shock, where you could spread it with Lava Lash, then you could do Fire Nova, and every target with Flame Shock would radiate fire, and big AoE clump, it would be so much AoE damage, and bring back like a Magma Totem for constant AoE damage, because Enhancement feels a little bit weird, because it doesn't feel like it has AoE, has a little bit of a cleave with Crashing Lightning, and Chain Lightning does a bit of damage, but I don't know. It's a cool spec, it's a cool idea, and they're bringing back certain mechanics from back in the day and now, but I think it needs a little more work. It's fun, and I want them to continue. I want them to see this spec to the end, but I feel like it just needs a little bit more work before it's finalized, so I'm hoping Enhancement sees adjustments. At least in my personal opinion, it felt a little bit busy, maybe too busy to the point where it gets muddy. I want to have a playstyle of a spec that's busy with a purpose, like Outlaw Rogue. It has now, what, 3-4 different buffs or debuffs to juggle, but it all feels like it has a purpose. There's a goal, and talents complement that goal. For enhancement, it feels like it has the purpose of cooldowns and putting things on cooldown, and then you have these talents that will just kind of throw everything out of whack. It's not about cooldowns anymore. Maybe it's about procs, or it's about specific builds, and how is Stormstrike even going to be the hard hitter anymore if you go Boulder Fist Landslide, Earthen Spike build? Do you go Stormkeeper now too? And it just becomes so busy, it becomes messy, I guess is the best way to put it. I love what they're doing with it. I want them to continue, but definitely it could be cleaned up a little bit in the talent section, I feel. Overall though, that's my opinion on Enhance. It's cool. I like where it's going. I don't think it's finished. I really want it to do well, but I guess we'll just have to see what Enhance looks like by beta or release of Shadowlands. One thing I do like about Enhance though is the utility for groups in particular. I think your PvP is going to be pretty nutty. Besides the damage it puts out, just the being able to keep a stream totem up and running, or if let's say you want to go for chain heal on allies too, you can have instant cast chain heals that cost no mana whatsoever, which could be good in groups like in PvP for example, right? I mean, let me see if I can get myself instant cast here with the, there we go. I can run up to an ally and I can use chain heal, which will do about the same healing as a healing surge, but it'll now bounce, so it'll bounce between me and him. And if you can get a bunch of those proc and then start healing allies, you can do quite a lot of healing. So I really like that idea with the Maelstrom weapon, but I feel like the talents maybe make the spec way too busy. It already has a pretty interesting rotation, and maybe if I just were to stop using Flame Shock, which I feel like has to be an integral part of the playstyle, if I were to stop pressing it, sometimes I'd be able to just have a simple playstyle of Storm Strike, Lava Lash, Rock Biter, and Crash Lightning, but I don't know. I think the spec is just new, and Blizzard hasn't really put in a lot of work. They just stuck a bunch of stuff in there, which I like. But if you can get more synergies together with like Syrian Totem and other abilities, that would be great. Next, we're gonna do Elemental Shaman. Enhance was quite a lot, a mouthful to get through, but I think Elemental would be a lot easier to pick up and understand. Man, Enhance has got so much stuff going for it. But let's move on. In terms of the class-based abilities, you don't really get anything new except for Primal Strike. As an Elemental Shaman, it's an attack that will cause a little bit of physical damage from your weapon. You're not really gonna press this. This is really just for leveling, and you do give you ability to at least auto attack an enemy. It does cost mana to use, but I doubt you're gonna really be hitting the boss in melee as an elemental. Going into some elemental based abilities, you have Cleanse Spirit, Earth Shock, which is a little bit different because no more Maelstrom, so now we'd have a fulmination mechanic coming back from the game. Earthquake is here with a pretty hefty long cast for it, but each chain lightning hits more than one. Each chain lightning that hits more than one target, the cast of your earthquake is reduced by 20%, stacking up to 5 times. So essentially, you might want to start using chain lightning in a 2-target situation in order to get those earthquakes off. You have still Fire Elemental on a 2.5 minute cooldown, 30-second duration. Lava Burst is always crit as long as it's affected by Flame Shock. Spirit Walker's Grace, 2 minutes, so you are able to cast spells while moving, which is quite cool. You have Thunderstorm for the knockback as per usual. You have Elemental Fury as a passive. Damage of crits does more damage. Your crits essentially just do more damage by 250% instead of 200. Fulmination, Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, and their overloads have a 50% chance to generate a stack of Fulmination up to 8 stacks. Earthshock will discharge all stacks of Fulmination on the target, causing an extra 49 initial damage per stack of Fulmination. Now, this wasn't working before, but I think they might have actually gotten to work, so it's actually working. Prior to that, Earthshock just hit for nothing. You have Lava Surge, your Flame Shock, damage over time has a 50% chance to reset the remaining cooldown of Lava Burst, and cause the next Lava Burst to be instant. Mastery, Elemental Overload, your Lightning Bolt, Lava Burst, and Chain Lightning, and other spells in your talents, some available in there, have a percent chance to trigger a second cast on the same target, dealing 85% of the normal damage. That's essentially going to be elemental abilities. Into the talents we go with level 15 Earthen Rage. Same as live. Doing damage to enemy will slam him with a little bit of extra nature damage. Echo of the Elements grants you 2 charges of Lava Burst, but it also gives you 2 charges of Healing Stream Totem, like the Restoration talent. It doesn't say it in tooltip, but just don't tell anybody. Having 2 Healing Stream Totems in PvP, I'm pretty sure it's going to be good, as you literally do have both of them to heal you. Or Elemental Blast on the same row. Elemental Blast will consume all stacks of Fulmination, deal extra nature damage to your target, which is a very interesting combo for Elemental Blast. Essentially, if you're running Elemental Blast, you basically stop Earth Shocking the enemy unless you need instant nature damage, because in a 12-second cooldown, it will consume all fulmination stacks, which is going to change your rotation. Level 25, we have Aftershock. Earthshock has a 25% chance not to consume any stacks of fulmination, so wouldn't be comboed together with Elemental Blast at all. Or Earthquake has a 25% chance not to consume Seismic Thunder, which is the instant cast ability, so you might be able to get a couple instant cast Earthquakes back to back. Echoing Shock. Shock is a target for a bit of elemental damage. Create an Ancestral Echo, causing the next damage or healing spell to be cast a second time, 1 second later for free. Interesting. Could be good in self-heals for PvP, but also could be good for damage as well. Or Totem Mastery to provide you with a variety of totems that do the same thing as Battle for Azeroth. No, the Resonance Storm is different. Gain 1 stack of Fulmination every 5 seconds instead of Maelstrom, so that could be quite huge. Level 30 we have Spirit Wolf, which is the same as Enhance, with Earth Shield, same as Enhance, and Static Charge, same as Enhance. Level 35 we still have Master of the Elements, 20% damage after Lava Burst on your Nature, Physical, or Frost spell, physical being for your Earthquakes. Storm Elemental is going to replace your Ellie, and is going to make Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt reduce the cast by 2%, stacking up to 20 times. So that's exactly the same as Live. Same thing with Liquid Magma Totem, also the same as Live, I believe. Level 40, Nature's Guardian, same as Enhance. Then you also have Ancestral Guidance, which I believe is same as Live. 25% of your damage and healing is converted to healing up to 3 allies, or Windrush Totem in that same row. Level 45, Surge of Power, consuming at least 6 stacks of Fulmination, enhanced your next spell cast. Flame Shock will... Next cast will also apply Flame Shock to 1 additional target within 8 yards. Lightning Bolt, your next cast will cause additional 1 to 3 elemental overloads. Lava Burst, reduces the cooldown of your fire elemental by 6 seconds. Or Frost Shock, freeze the target in place for 6 seconds, so it's all the same. Primal Elementalist, your Earth, Fire, and Storm Elementals are drawn from Primal Elementals, 80% more powerful than regular, with additional abilities that you gain direct control over them. Or Ice Fury, after you use it, which also goes into your Mastery too, your 4 Frost Shocks will deal 200% more damage. Level 50 we have Unlimited Power. When your spells cause an elemental overload, you gain 2% haste for 10 seconds, does not refresh the duration. Or good old Stormkeeper, which will make your abilities do more damage and will definitely cause them to also have an overload. Or Ascendance, becoming a God mode, having Lava Burst off cooldown, and I believe Chain Lightning also is infused with Lava Beam, removing the cooldown of Lava Burst and increasing the damage of Lava Burst by an amount equal to your critical strike chance. So that's essentially Elemental. It is fairly base to what it is now, just without the Maelstrom, which might change the playstyle a little bit. As for the playstyle of Elemental Shaman, we are going to drop down our Elemental Shield. I don't think Lightning Shield has anything to do with Fulmination. Just to make sure, because normally it used to work off of your Lightning Shield. No, you're getting Fulmination as a separate thing. Is it still 0 nature? So normally your Earthshock hits for like 207. So wait, it didn't consume it. So it does have actual damage. Okay, so they actually did fix it, so it does have an actual hit. Wait, this is not normal. Wait, since when does Earthshock have no cooldown? Flameshock has a cooldown, Earthshock doesn't? When did that happen? Wait. You could Frost Shock, Earthshock, Flameshock. What did this have no cooldown? Is that new, or did I just never notice it? Huh. This could be interesting for PvP. But, wow, okay, so let's talk a bit about the spec. So in the opener, you're going to pop, I guess, a shield. You don't have to, but if you're going to be chased by melee, you might want to. Flamethrower weapon does not have any kind of interactions making your spellcast better, so you don't need to. But I guess in case you get into melee, you need to primal strike the enemy, which let me show you the damage of this thing. You just will, in PvP, might be somewhat useful, but you just boop him. Does very little damage, but I think it'd be hilarious if you could get someone super low, come up, boop him with Primal Strike for like a PvP video or something. This is going to be Shaman. You also do have Syrian Totem, but it doesn't seem to have any synergies. You'll be just dropping, and it will do damage. As per usual, it does not hit train dummies. It doesn't recognize them as enemies at all. So, in terms of talents, I kind of want to play with Surge of Power. I think that'll be cool with Aftershock. Or we could try Elemental Blast. No, let's just show you what the playstyle of Elemental is looking like right now. You'll get yourself a big old Stormkeeper, and you'll go for a Lava Burst in the opener on the enemy. Drop down your Ellie. You'll get some Lightning Bolts in there as well. And that's it. You're just Lava Bursting and Lightning Bolting when nothing's going on. And you'll use Earthshock on Fulmination. And because of, oh, even my elemental won't even attack it. Okay. That's good. They gotta fix that. But yeah, that's a little unfortunate. But yeah, elemental feels pretty basic. It feels like most of the damage you're going to do will come from your lava burst. And maybe some of it from this extra damage from earth shocks. But essentially that's the spec. It feels very, very simple. You don't really have too much complexity with it. So this feels like, compared to Enhancement, this definitely has a very simple playstyle without a lot of abilities. And then you have talents to enhance and adjust your playstyle. Compared to Enhancement, you only have so many buttons, and then you want to add even more buttons that sometimes will play against the grain with the playstyle. So I would say Elemental feels a lot better. But yeah, the spec feels very, very base. And I wonder how the playstyle together with maybe some like Elemental Blast might be. Because essentially you could replace your Earthshock with Elemental Blast since it will consume all Fulmination to deal extra nature damage, so that could be interesting. I have a little bit of Fulmination, and I have Elemental Blast coming back, and that should consume my Fulmination. It does, okay, so it seems like it will do a little bit of damage, and some of it will be nature, and because it's nature damage, it will consume whatever Fulmination you have. So you'll never be able to really get full Fulmination on this thing, but it should still be pretty good, either way. So we're gonna go for a bunch of zaps right now. Oh my god, that was a lot of lightning bolts. Echo and Shock together with a lightning bolt from Stormkeeper seems really strong. That seems really strong. I kind of like it. And I know I'm not really playing into my playstyle of Master of the Elements. I'm kind of just trying to show you the basic playstyle of the Shaman. But maybe I should be a little bit more conscious with it. Yeah, so you can get some big numbers just from small combos as Shaman without anything crazy. So you don't have to go for any kind of build setup, big Earthshock, wombo combo. You still have a build to spender playstyle, but it's not like a huge focus on biggest Earthshocks in the world and then Lava Burst and afterwards. It seems Lava Burst is going to be a good portion, a good majority of your base damage. It does quite a bit of damage baseline. And lastly, we have ourselves the Restoration Shaman. I will be honest, there's not a lot of regular gameplay from me with Restoration. It is a spec that I've messed with before, but I've never truly went to figure out and learn the spec and learn every ability like the back of my hand. I've done some keys like 10 to 15, 12, 10 to 13 maximum maybe. And I've done some off heal in the raids for heroic clears, but never to learn how this spec truly plays. I get the basic gist of it, but I won't be able to tell you like certain minuscule things, so please be aware of this video. I'll try to cover it as much detail as I can. I did as much research as I could into the spec, but there might be some things I miss. So hopefully they'll be the smallest things that are not all that relevant. Take a look at the spec itself. You have the same utility in the Shaman row. There's a lot of abilities for you to use. With the Restoration spec, you have Ancestral Vision for the Mass Res. Earth Shield is a baseline, which is usual. We have Healing Rain, which will heal up to 6 allies for quite a bit of health. Healing Tide Totem, which will heal every member or party member for a set amount. Healing Wave for your efficient but a costly and pretty long heal. Lava Burst Healing Game for the bit of damage is affected by 100% crit if the target has Flame Shock. Mana Tide Totem makes it into the game. It does not have the same animation as it used to with the swirl around the totem, but it does give you mana regeneration rate increased by 100% for, I believe it is 8 seconds. This is going to be huge for Restoration Shamans and raids, and the utility to bring into raids, not just AoE healing, but Mana Tide Totem is actually quite huge. Now, I don't really know a lot of groups that utilize a lot of mana regen except from Boomkins when it comes to Innervate. But Mana Tide, if let's say the next expansion is very mana intensive, so you need a Holy Priest or a Restoration Shaman for some sort of mana regen, Mana Tide Totem is going to be huge. When it comes to being a Shaman, you just drop it and it does mana regen for 8 seconds. It's not like Holy Priest, we actually have to channel it. See how Purify Spirit to remove curses and magic. Riptide as your healing over time ability. Spirit Link Totem still in the game with 10% damage reduction and will redistribute health amongst allies. Spirit Walker's Grace is also still in the game. Water Shield is going to be something that comes back as well as probably the most amount of shields that out of all 3 specs that you have. You have the Earth Shield or Lightning Shield, you have Water Shield and Earth Shield as a bunch of shields to put up on yourself or allies. So Water Shield is going to be back. Cast surrounded by globes of water, granting a bunch of mana every 5 seconds. When a melee attack hits the caster, you regen 2% of the mana. Effect will occur every few seconds. So, could be very interesting in PvP, and it's going to be pretty interesting inside of raids. I'm pretty sure Blizzard is going to adjust mana regen, unless Resto is simply just going to have more mana regen than the rest of the specs, which I think could make it competitive. Lava Surge is still a talent. Your Flame Shock has a 20% chance to reset your Lava Burst, which is bigger than Elemental. Then you have Master Deep Healing. The lower the allies' health that you heal, the more the healing is. Resurgence, your direct crits of certain spells refund back mana. 1% from a Healing Wave, 0.6 from Healing Surge or Riptide, or 0.25 from a Chain Heal. And you also have still Tidal Waves, cast in Chain Heal or Riptide, reducing the caster of your next Healing Wave by 20%, or increases the effect chance of your next Healing Surge by 40, stacking up to 2 times. Into the talents we go with the Restoration Shaman. We have Torrent, increases in the extra initial heal from Riptide. Undulation, every third healing wave of Healing Surge deals 50% more healing. Or Unleash Life, unleashes the elemental forces of life to target, doing quite a bit of healing and increases the next shaman's direct heal by 35%. Level 25, Echo of the Elements, which is the same as Live. You have 2 charges of Healing Stream Totem, Lava Burst, and Riptide. Deluge, Healing Wave, Healing Surge, and Chain Heal. Heal for additional 20% on targets affected by Healing Rain or Riptide. Or Surging Earth, consume up to 3 charges of Earth Shield to heal up to 6 allies near your Earth Shield target for quite a bit per charge consumed, an AoE heal with an instant cast. With a 20-second cooldown, so it's quite, you can use it quite often. I kind of like this ability to actually play with your Earth Shields. I think this was actually in previous expansions, but WoD maybe? Maybe this was in WoD. We have level 30 with Spirit Wolf, Earth Grab Totem, which is going to root enemies, and Static Charge, same as Live. Level 35, Ancestral Vigor, together on the same row as Earthen Wall Totem, which is still going to absorb a portion of damage enemies take, or allies take, and Ancestral Protection Totem to give everybody extra health, and a Battle Res in 5 minutes, so that's all the same as Live. Moving on to level 40, same as Live, Nature's Guardian, Graceful Spirit to give Spirit Walker's Grace cooldown reduced by 60 seconds, so take it from a 2-minute to a 1-minute cooldown, increasing movement speed by 200% while it's active, or Wind Rush Totem to give allies movement speed. Level 45, we have Flash Flood. When you consume Tidal Waves, the caster moving next heal is reduced by 20%. Or Downpour. Burst Water at the target location heals up to 6 injured allies within 12 seconds. Cooldown is increased by 5 seconds for each target effectively healed. So Legion artifact weapon ability from back in the day. Or Cloudburst Totem, which is still probably going to be really strong. Collects power from all your healing spells. When the totem expires or destroyed, the stored power released, healing all injured allies within 40 yards for 30% of the healing done while it was active, divided evenly amongst targets. So this is going to be a pretty big bursty heal. Level 50, we have High Tide. Every 5,000 mana you spend brings a High Tide, making the next 2 chain heals. Heal for an additional 10% and not reduced with each jump. Or Wellspring creates a surge of water that flows forward, healing friendly targets in arc and farming for quite a bit actually in relative numbers. Or Ascendance, transform into Ward Ascendant, immediately grant a bunch of healing distributed amongst allies and become a godly healer for quite a bit of time. The playstyle for Restoration isn't going to change much. I do like this ability with Surge in Earth, so it'll consume charges of your Earth Shield and will heal allies. It doesn't seem to work, because actually maybe I need to get close enough, but I like the Blizzard is at least letting you play with abilities like that. But from there, the spec is going to be pretty base. You're still going to chain heal, you're still going to try to keep as many allies in your healing range for as often as possible. And that's essentially the Restoration playstyle. You don't really do much past that. I do want to see if this actually heals. Yes, it does. I did see the heal pop on me. So it'll only do to allies within near your Earthshield target, but it doesn't really say the range to it. But I don't like the fact that you can play with Earthshield and have an AoE heal because of it. And I think that's going to be interesting. But for the most part, the Shaman seems more or less the same. It doesn't really seem all that different. The one thing that is different is going to be, of course, the Manatite Totem. Being able to grant extra healing to allies. And it's going to be great in raids. And being also to have yourself extra mana throughout a dungeon run or maybe PvP situation. I think it's going to be quite cool. I mean, it's a totem that can be killed in PvP, so people are going to try to target it ASAP, but at least having some sort of toolkit to help you with mana regen is going to be nice. Outside of that, the spec is mostly as it was. It hasn't really changed too much. But for now, that's all we have with Restoration. Didn't really change too much, I believe. There might be some small adjustments that I might have missed. But yeah, it seems to be about the same as it was. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed. This was quite a long one. I had to re-record a certain few parts, particularly with Enhancement and some parts with Elemental. There's just a lot of things to cover with all the different specs of Shaman, and I wanted to wait to make this video to make sure I understand things for the most part. Enhancement and Elemental and Resto are going to be interesting. I think it's going to really come down to the Blizzard's balancing of these specs and the numbers. I feel that Enhancement still has a couple more cycles to get cleaned up. If you're an Enhancement main, start voicing your thoughts right now. How would you want the spec? Do you like that it's busy? Do you want Blizzard to have more abilities? Do you think that maybe they added too many abilities, and now would be a good time to maybe prune some, to really have a spec that has a focus? Because some specs feel like they just brought them back as it is, and certain things from BFA didn't apply, or certain changes did get applied, but they are out of focus of where the spec should be. Again, I always point to the rogues as the one class that I feel like even Subtlety and Outlaw, with the big changes that they've gotten, at least Blizzard has a focus to those specs. Subtlety should be all about big damage during Shadow Dances, and Shadow Dance should be majority of a setup, so they made Shadow Dance do more and give you certain passives that play with Shadow Dance, so now the spec feels more complete. With Outlaw, it's all about crit and crit damage increases because everybody runs blood of the enemy on life, so then they baked it into the spec, gave you more buffs to play with, so the buff thing doesn't really feel nearly as RNG, and RNG doesn't feel nearly as bad because you have more sustain, so there's a focus. With Enhancement, I feel like there's a lack of focus. It feels like there's someone working on the basic toolkit of the spec and someone else working on the talents. Elemental feels a lot better in that regard. It feels like there's somebody working on the base abilities and the talents to synergize with those abilities, minus 1 or 2 talents at most. Restoration, it feels like there's no one working on it, and they just gave it a few cool abilities, but it's fine because the spec is mostly the same coming out of Battle for Azeroth, so it's the most spec that's like the most whole and the least amount of changes, as far as I've been able to see and compare on live versus Shadowlands. But that's essentially what my thoughts are. Very hopeful for the Shaman. It's going to be definitely a class that I'll be checking out and playing as an alt in Shadowlands. I want to make Shamans, and I want to play a Shaman. I think Enhancement has a lot of potential, and as long as Blizzard takes it in the right direction during its development through the alpha and the beta, then the spec can be a really solid and a fun spec to play. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed. You guys let me know your thoughts about Shamans and Shadowlands Alpha, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.